And God bless Mr. Rogers. The Good Samaritan story is about mercy, about love and compassion, the core values of the Jesus movement. A lawyer came to Jesus. He was a scribe, really, an expert in the law, and he was trying to trick him. So they talked about the commandments and the law and about love. The Bible has a lot to say about love. Our word that we use for love has fallen on hard times, if you think about it. I love pizza. I love going to the movies. I love my Aunt Nyla's Spam and Velveeta casserole. You would too if you like the taste of uranium. But when it comes to our neighbors, the biblical word love is not like that. Love is not liking in the Bible. You may not like something or someone, but still you can love them. You may not like your mother-in-law. You may not like your boss. Biblical love is not the mushy, gushy, huggy, buggy, kissy kind of love, but biblical love is really a decision. It is the will to seek the well-being of another. It's that simple. Seek the well-being of another. Of course, it's always easier to love the one you like, or the one you're with, as Stephen Stills once sang. If we seek the well-being of another, we can love our neighbor even if they are unlikable. And they can love us too. But who is that, the lawyer asked? Who is my neighbor? Now, there could have been a great philosophical and theological debate between Jesus and the lawyer that could have lasted for hours. I mean, Jesus was a preacher, and you know how long they can talk. But Jesus stopped the conversation in midair, and he told a story. I love that about him. He told a story about the dangerous road from Jerusalem that leads to Jericho. A man fell into the hands of robbers on the road, he said. They left him half dead. A priest and a Levite, who was a temple employee, they passed by, literally. Maybe they were in a hurry to go to a church meeting or a bingo night, or maybe they were on their way to a workshop on brotherhood. The road to Jericho is a dangerous and difficult road. It's rocky and sandy and dirty, and there are no fast food joints on the way down. It's a hard road to walk. It's winding and meandering, and it was called the Bloody Pass in the first century. It eventually leads to the Dead Sea, which is the lowest place on earth. You ever been there, to the lowest place on earth? I know I have, where the only way you can look is up. And so it was with the beaten man in Jesus' story. The priest grimaced as he passed by the man, and he said, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? I could become unclean. I could be contaminated. Besides, I'm preaching on Sunday. And he passed by on the other side. The Levite saw the man, and he probably said something like, it's a dangerous road. It's his own dumb fault for taking it alone. Why did he do that? It's his own dumb fault. It'd be like going to a Lions game wearing a Green Bay Packers jersey, going to a Trump rally wearing a Long Live Hillary t-shirt. It was his own dumb fault. I'm not going to help him. And he too passed by on the other side. Then a Samaritan man came along who looked like Snidely Whiplash to all the Jewish listeners. And they booed at the point in Jesus' story because the Jews hated the Samaritans. They were geographically and ethnically divided. The Jews were the ones who suffered for centuries to keep their identity, their religious identity, pure as the tribe of Judah. Judah, where we get our word Jew. The Samaritans were the ones who were scattered, the 10 lost tribes of the north, scattered, assimilated into Assyrian and Babylonian cultures for hundreds of years, and they didn't keep that purity, that Hebraic ethnicity, but they intermarried and intermarried. The Jews and the Samaritans were enemies, like Batman and the Joker, like Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono, the Hatfields and the McCoys, Dan Quayle and Murphy Brown, like Winston Churchill and Lady Astor, who once told the Prime Minister, "If you were my husband, I'd put poison in your coffee." To which he answered, "Madam, if I were your husband, I'd drink it." Jesus continued his story. He looked the Jews right in the eyes and he said, "The Samaritan had mercy on the man." Ooh, that must have hurt. The Samaritan. The Samaritan. Why, it might as well have been a Jehovah's Witness who doesn't even believe in the Trinity, or a Mormon who doesn't even believe in drinking coffee, or a Hindu, or a Muslim, or an atheist. A Samaritan. It is a dangerous and difficult road to Jericho. And it is a dangerous and difficult road Jesus commands us to walk if we are to follow him. Telling the story that way, Jesus was shattering all their categories of those who are and those who are not children of God. We are not to judge which people are unclean and not worth saving. That is God's decision. I read a story about a priest sailing for Europe on an ocean liner. When he went aboard, he found that he was sharing his cabin with another passenger. Afterward, he wandered up to the purser's desk and asked if he could leave his gold watch and other valuables in the ship's safe. He explained that he had been to the cabin, he had met the man he was to share the room, and judging from his appearance, he said, his seedy eyes and his suspicious smile, I'm afraid he might not be a very trustworthy person. The purser accepted the priest's valuables and remarked, "It's all right, Father. I'll be glad to take care of them for you. The other man was just up here already. He left all his valuables for me for the same reason." Judge not, lest you be judged. It is not easy. Sometimes I have a real difficult time loving somebody. I'm confessing to you right now. Loving an angry person, an abusive person, a spoiled, entitlement-minded, narcissistic person. And I pray, God, let me see the life behind that person, what they went through that made them the way they are. Let me feel pity for them and pray for their well-being. But sometimes I fail, and I need to work at it. A friend, an Episcopalian friend, was inviting someone to church. Must have been his once out of every 36 years when an Episcopalian invites someone to church. He invited someone to church, and the woman said, "If you knew what I did, you wouldn't want me to go to church." And my friend wisely answered back, if you knew what I did, you wouldn't even be worried about it. Mercy comes from God. It is a gift. Our job is to pass it on. A new immigrant moves into the neighborhood, and they're struggling to fit in and find work. We might say, well, they probably came in illegally, and it's their own dumb fault. Or we see a woman who can't get her addiction under control, and we think, well, it's her own dumb fault. I don't have to act like a neighbor to her, not in this case. Or maybe there's a homeless guy over there, and we look at his life choices that he's made, and we think, it's his own dumb fault. I don't have to act like a neighbor to him. Well, you get the idea. Jesus never says, it's your own dumb fault, and passes us by on the other side. The Bible says when it comes to judging, That is God's job, thankfully. Our job is to be a neighbor. Amen.